And real focus number 5 is 12-month job growth. Ideally, I want you to look for numbers above 2%. So if you want 2% annualized job growth, 1.5% for cities that are above a million. So like Los Angeles, hard to get to 2%. But 2% is great, 3% is phenomenal, 4% is absolutely incredible, right? So this number actually, hang on, this is already done. So this would have been for the rest of 2023. It's actually, I'm going to change this to applies to 2024 because there was this rush, of employment as people are coming back from COVID, and that is now over. I'm glad to see that the job numbers have stabilized. Now, this data is on this website, departmentofnumbers.com/employment/metros. And you're like, I'm not going to remember that link, Neal. That's okay. You're going to get this Excel spreadsheet, right? I showed you this Excel spreadsheet. Well, the link is in the spreadsheet. Right. Where is it? I don't know why it's not in here. All right, I'm going to add that in and make sure that the spreadsheet that goes out has the link for you, right? So departmentofnumbers.com. Let's go take a look. DEPT, there it is. So here's this link. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is this is an ugly looking page, but it's very powerful. So just ignore the fact that it's not ugly. The government doesn't do a good job of basically posting these kinds of things. So first thing I want to tell you is do not look at the monthly numbers. The monthly numbers will lead you in the wrong direction. One company opens up, one company goes under, those numbers go up and down. It's crazy. Never look at the monthly numbers. You always look at these two numbers, the number of jobs added in a year, and then the percentage change. Okay, both are important, and I'll tell you why. So the first thing I want you to do is, you see this last one, the percentage change? I want you to click it twice when you're on this page, right? I know you're not there now, but click it once, and you will see the cities that you don't want to invest in, because even though the US is growing robustly, we've had a fantastic job growth year for the last 12 months, these cities are losing jobs. You cannot make money if you're investing in a place that's losing jobs. You can make money in a place where it's losing population as long as the population growth loss is slow. But you cannot make money if jobs are being lost, because for every 1% job loss, you're losing 5 to 15% in rent. It's a shockingly large number for just a 1% drop in jobs. So click on it once and then click on it a second time. Now, you notice all these cities, you see a lot of cities that are above 3%. Now, you see some outliers, and I'm going to mention some outliers to you and tell you that these are problematic places. So Ocean City, New Jersey has a lot of transitional jobs, which is why often you see it at the top of this list, 9% up, 9% down, but then also some months of the year you see it at -9, -6. So it's very transitional. The place itself is transitional. There's some hotels opening up there. So I would steer clear of this one. I would also steer clear of Lawrence, Kansas. But beyond that point, you start seeing some really good numbers. So Anna is a Airbnb superhost, and she has properties in Charleston, South Carolina. Highly recommended. We currently are making an offer on a property in this amazing corridor that goes from Charleston to Myrtle Beach. That corridor, and I've been saying this in all of my podcasts. If you're listening to my podcast, you already know this. The corridor between Charleston and Myrtle Beach, something interesting is happening there, right? So sometimes the corridors just do well, and it's a 2-hour corridor. There's some small cities in the middle, but one side is Charleston, the other side is Myrtle Beach. You can see just how shocking this is. For a city as big as Charleston to have a 5.77% job growth number, this is rare. We don't see numbers for big cities over 5%. Sometimes we'll see it right around 5%, but 5.77%, that is a huge, huge number. Now,
I just wanted to add, Neal, for Charleston, because I was just looking at the 2024 Milken Institute report. It came in as number 11, which is a big deal for Charleston.
Huge. That is, again, an amazing number, right?
For the big city side of the world.
Yeah,
that's big.
It is. It's doing really well. And here's what I'm going to say. I think it will be in the top 5, because if these are recent job numbers, and Milken sort of looks at a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So if it's at 5.77% right now, I'm going to say it's going to be in the top 5 next year. Top 5, right? Amazing market. Yes, you've got to deal with the insurance issues. You've got, high insurance costs because it's on the shore there. But other than that, an incredible place to invest in. Now I'm going to skip past Mankato MN. And the reason for that is I've never seen it before in this list. So as you can imagine, I look at this list, every month for the last 10 years. So I've become used to kind of knowing which cities turn up again and again. But in all the years that Anna has been looking this, Anna, have you ever
I
seen
don't e- I've
Mankato?
never I didn't even know
I have
that town existed.
no idea. So I'm just going
Never
to
heard of
skip
it.
that. Right. This next city is the most dangerous city in this list. It's
Yes.
highly, highly dangerous, and you'll often see it at 5%. In fact, I'd say probably two-thirds of the time it's going to be at 5% or even more, 6%, 7%. Well, that's because Midland, Texas is part of the shale patch. So it's in the Permian Basin in Texas. And in that area, if the price of oil goes up above 80, you start seeing massive growth numbers in Midland, Texas. But if the price of oil falls below 72, 73, then you start seeing -5%, -10% numbers. So this is an oil town, and it goes up and down based on the price of oil. So a very, very dangerous place to invest in. I strongly suggest you stay away. Salinas, California is usually a steady Eddie market, so we don't see numbers as high as this. Not sure what's going on there. So I'm just going to say maybe not a market that you want to look at. But Lexington, Kentucky, we've been talking about Lexington in our meetings, right, Anna?
Yes,
Comes
we
up
have.
again and again as a very interesting meeting. Now, as city. Now, I want to point out to you, Kentucky is a small state, right? There's like 6 people living in Kentucky, but and Lexington is the largest city in Kentucky, but still a small city. Well, in a small city, look at the job gain. So it's not just the percentage. Look at this number. 12,000 jobs. 12, 4% is easy if it's 2,000 jobs, but 4% is hard when it's 12,000 jobs. So I can't say something is going on in Lexington. I'm going to say something very big is going on in Lexington for the city to gain 12,000 jobs in a single year. That is a big number. So obviously you can see other cities gain more jobs, but those cities are much larger than Lexington, right? So a good city to look at if you're near Kentucky, you might want to take a look at that. Trenton always does well, usually tends to be around 2%, a good city to invest in. Durham is better. So Durham is just about the same number here. You can see more jobs than New Jersey. Durham is part of the metro that we picked this year as the best city in America to invest in, which is Raleigh-Durham Metro, right? So we picked Raleigh, North Carolina, but as you can imagine, Raleigh's a bigger city, Durham's a smaller city. They're about 20 minutes away from each other, but Durham is part of that metro. And so you can see the numbers here are incredible. You can see Raleigh down here as well. So 3.83. These are just shockingly high numbers because Raleigh's a big city, 1.7 million people in the metro. Raleigh's about a million people. So when a city that's a million people is 4% job growth, amazing. That is absolutely stunning. And to see that job growth also extends to Durham, which is actually doing even a little bit better, these are just stellar numbers. Boise is an incredible city to invest in. Boise has been picked by us twice. So it's one of the rare cities to have been picked twice by us as City of the Year. But the challenge is at this point, Boise has extreme affordability issues because its income haven't caught up with home price increases. So we suggest for the moment, you might want to stay away. If you listened to us back in 2017 or 2018 when we were talking about Boise and bought there, I'm sure what you bought has more than doubled in 5 years. Las Vegas, this is actually a city that's doing really well at this point of time. I see it in the list a lot. As you know, it's a little bit of a boom and bust town. So you might want to keep an eye on the prices and the rent prices, but otherwise, Las Vegas is doing really, really well. Fort Collins is better than Denver. Fort Collins, in my mind, is better than a few other cities in Colorado. I would say at this point, it would be my favorite city in Colorado to invest in. I'm not enamored with Colorado as a state, but if you live there, this is definitely a place to look at. Jacksonville is in the list very often, so it's a perennial growth city. The only challenge with Jacksonville is it has a large number of units delivering this year, so rents might be negative. But if you're in for 5 years, you couldn't go wrong with Jacksonville. Charlottesville is beginning to show up in our list. It's not very consistent. But if you live in Virginia, a state that has 3.69% in job growth is going to do really well. I'll skip it over. Cape Coral is absolutely fantastic. Don't just look at the 3.65, look at how many jobs. We're not talking about 2,000 jobs. We're not talking about 4,000 jobs. Cape Coral has now gained 11,000 jobs in a year. Just astonishing, astonishing city. Highly recommend that you look at Cape Coral. Now, again, you're going to have to deal with high insurance. I'll skip Jefferson City. I'll skip San Luis Obispo. I don't see them often. Huntsville is a terrific city to invest in. Once again, a lot of supply there, so you might see negative rent growth for this year. But on a 5-year time frame, there is no city in Alabama that is as good as Huntsville. Highly recommended. Gainesville is it's more of a agricultural town. So it's going through an agricultural renaissance. It's about 112 miles away from Atlanta, sort of in the northeastern direction. Does fairly well. We have, Anna, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we've made offers on maybe 2 or 3 properties on Gainesville over the last 2 or 3 years, and we've never won any.
That is correct.
Yep.
And I want to say that Gainesville, Georgia showed up gangbusters in the Milken Institute report, Neal. I was just reading
Nice.
it.
Nice. Yeah.
Georgia, ba-boom.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Anna has read this report because
No. I
she
just like
found it.
literally just saw it and was
Yeah.
scouring it before. And I just want to say, since I just brought this up, Raleigh, North Carolina, #2 for big city.
#2. Wow.
Number
Wow.
two.
That's
Yes.
again, it's astonishing that we basically in a January presentation picked Raleigh as our city of the year.
Yes. And February
Milken always
6th.
comes out too late for us, right? So
February
we do our
6th, it was
presentation.
picked by
Exactly.
Milken Institute.
I know. So it's just stunning how the math really, really makes sense. And that's why
The
we
data
have
is the
such high
data,
belief in
right?
the
If
data is the
anyone's
data.
looking at the data, you can't ignore it.
Yeah, and we have a friend of ours, Vicky, who's listening to us today, and Vicky was there for that presentation, right? So Vicky, we picked it like 2 days before, right? Before the Milken Institute came out. So very excited when this happens, when there's congruence between our data and somebody that has 10 full-time employees just turning away at the data. So I'm just going to go through. You're going to notice that I'm going to skip some cities. Ann Arbor is a very interesting city, high growth, but it's also very expensive. So there's a second city that I like to look at, which is uh, Grand Rapids, Michigan. It has a lower growth in terms of jobs, so it's in the twos, but it has reasonable prices. So we picked Grand Rapids as our up and coming city of the year for this year. We've been looking at it for a while. Another city that's in this list that I'm getting used to seeing constantly is Sioux Falls in South Dakota. So highly recommend that if you live around this area, Sioux Falls is doing extremely well. Now, Carson City is part of the Reno area, and that area is doing incredibly well. I'm not sure if I'd invest in Carson City. I'd probably stick with Reno, but they're about 10 miles apart from each other. Dallas is a big city. It's perennial favorite. Usually is in the twos because it's a very large city, so it's hard to get into the threes. But it's in the threes right now. But the number one highlight of this list is this one right here. Fayetteville, Arkansas is part of a 500,000 person metro that includes the cities of Bentonville, Fayetteville, Springville or Springdale, and then there's a fourth city. I can't remember what it is. Rogers. So that metro, which has these 4 cities, is just going gangbusters in every different way. So in my mind, within 2 years, you're going to start seeing it in the Milken top 10. So this is a early identification. So
My
we're
friend,
saying,
number
yeah.
7, in 2024 in the Fayetteville. Fayetteville is number 7,
Wow.
beating.
Wow. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow. This is thrilling. This is incredible. I mean, we've been making offers and losing offers. By the way, we had an offer, we got a property, and then we had to sort of get out of it because all bad stuff happened with interest rates. Um, so we had and that property was in Rogers, which is the next city over from Fayetteville. But that metro is incredible. I urge you, go there, buy something, because I think they're set for a 5-year run. And I'm even more excited to see that it was picked as number 7 city
Number
by
7.
Milken. So check that out. McAllen, Texas is benefiting from the return of manufacturing. No, manufacturing is not returning to the United States. It is returning to Mexico. And McAllen is one of the two waypoints for goods to come in from Mexico into Texas. The other one is San Antonio, which, there's two freeways. One goes to the city of Monterrey in Mexico. The other one goes through McAllen into Laredo. So that area is booming, and it makes sense. I think it's going to do really, really well for industrial. Let's skip some more. Miami, big city, just amazes me. I think their home prices are shockingly high, but they continue to generate job numbers like this. Austin is a perennial favorite. I believe that Austin was Milken's City of the Year, correct?
Yes, number
Yeah.
one.
That's right. So amazing city. Not going to do well on rents. It has the largest amount of inventory coming into any city in the United States this year, so its rents are going to be negative. But you might want to pick something up in Austin at the end of the year because that's probably when you'll see the lower prices. Coeur d'Alene's doing well. Reno's doing well. We talked about those. Let's see what else in the list is super, super exciting or interesting to me. I'm just going to keep going until I see a city. San Antonio, fantastic. Look at that, 2.6%. It's a big city, 1.5 million people. And for it to have this kind of job growth, it's doing something right. Boom, boom, boom. See Columbus, but this is a different Columbus. Atlanta, always doing well, 5 million people. And to be doing 2.5% of job growth at 5 million is phenomenal. Indianapolis. We've been talking about Indy more and more. We also gave Indy our upcoming City of the Year award in 2022. Just phenomenal. Indy just seems to be doing everything right. This is a city that we invest in. One of our favorite properties is in this city, Dalton, Georgia, the carpet capital of the world, doing quite well with job growth at 2.37%. And let's see. Salt Lake, Grand Forks, Orlando, yeah, doing well, 2.25%, 1.7 million population for the Orlando metro, and for, an area, well, actually, sorry, I've got that wrong. 1.7 is Raleigh. 2.7 million people live in Orlando, Florida, and for a city of that size, look at that, 32,000 jobs. That's a lot of jobs in a year. 2.25, they're doing something right.